Hi, this is Emily. How's everybody? Um, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who are concerned about me. Um, and just that I'm grateful to have good friends, because I've been through things that not many people understand. And it's just part of being the kind of person that I am. I'm very quiet, shy, and I have a son who's special needs and he struggles with autism, and I struggled all my life with being shy and also being transgender, which you know by now. And it's not easy, and I've always been a strong person. I was very good, and I had relations with people even though I'm a shy person, but I was able to manage and be able to, you know, function in society. And when it came out, I thought that everything would still be good. I, I worked all my life essentially hiding who I was. I went to school all my life hiding who I was. So innocently, I thought that if I came out, that it would be better. It would be better for me, and people would understand who I am as a person. But it didn't work out the way I had hoped it would, and it propelled me into a whole different arena of my life struggles and circumstances. We all make choices in life. We all decide that this is right for me. And that's what I felt. That's all how I always felt, you know. So I don't have any apologies to make for coming out and admitting that I'm a transgender woman. I have no regrets. I would do it all the same. Though there are reasons why I came out and why so old or more mature in my life. Maybe that's a better way to say it. But those feelings were always there. The way I felt about myself. I can't not be true to who I am and be happy. And even though I am happy with my transition, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm happy in my life circumstances. It's two different things altogether. And I suffer from depression, and I'm isolated now because of my circumstances. And I'm stressed out financially, and I got a lot of stresses, and my son. So, this all accumulates. And now I got the long term disability insurance carrier that I'm basically living on, which I was lucky to have forethought to even pay premiums for during my working career as an accountant CPA. And I have my life insurance policy for my wife and son's benefit. God forbid something happens to me. But the reason I took out a long term disability policy was in case something like what I'm experiencing happened. And it did happen, but it was because of many factors. Plus I was not diagnosed with depression when I was young, and that's a crime because I've been depressed for most of my life. And not many people realize that depression is a disease and it's a lifelong struggle for some people like myself. But not only was depression a lifelong struggle for me, but also being transgender was a lifelong struggle for me. And I would imagine that being transgender and depression are interconnected because being trans not knowing you're trans, but knowing you're different, and being uh, secretive about it, not being able to communicate it to anybody, uh, feeling all alone and trapped and depressed. It all interrelates, you know? I was trans, but I didn't know it at the time, transgender, and I was depressed, but I didn't even know that because nobody told me that. And I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't have a therapist or a psychiatrist. So how am I supposed to know? All I knew was I tried to live and be happy even though I didn't feel happy. And that was basically my whole life. You know, and I'm not looking for people to feel sorry for me or anything. But it's like you live life and you want to be happy. You know, what's the whole point if you're miserable? You know, you go and you do everything you're supposed to do. You know, you want to go to school, do well, you want to participate in activities, whether it's sports or music or art or whatever. And you do all those things to grow and to learn and be someone that you identify as. But if you block off who you are as a person, then how can you live a normal life? Because I can't figure out how I survived to be 58 when I only came out as transgender at 51, and how I survived all those years, because I lived denying who I was, I lived suppressing who I was, repressing who I was. I don't know the difference between suppressing or repressing, but I think it's similar. But either way, I know I repressed and I suppressed, and I denied, and I did not admit to who I was. And all of that wells up inside of you, you know? And my only release growing up was to cross dress because I didn't know what else to do. I was going out of my mind, you know? So I did that and it helped me. And I was a good student. And then I got into the cross country and track, which was really good. Helped me a lot. Met a lot of nice guys on the team and a girl who was on the team as well. And coach was wonderful. I had wonderful coach and wonderful teammates. And it was great. It was a wonderful experience. And I also had great teachers in school. I learned a lot. I was a good student. I was a good person. But there was a part of me that nobody knew. Even I didn't know, to be honest with you. All I knew was I was different, but I didn't tell anybody. And so we go through life, we learn, we try to compensate, and that's basically what I tried to do, you know? And I knew that I didn't want to be alone. I knew I wanted to meet someone, you know? And I never really had any kind of, I didn't really, like, as you reach a certain age, you start to think about, you know, boys start to think about girls, girls start to think about boys or whatever, you know, and I didn't really fall into that because I was so confused. I didn't know what I wanted, and I was into the sports in school, so I really didn't really even think about it. And I was dressing up, so that was my escape, and I couldn't tell anybody, so it was basically me doing that and then doing the normal things that we do, you know, and that was my private life. That was the skeletons in my closet, I guess you could say, but that was me, and that was who I was, and that's who I couldn't tell anybody about. So that affects you up here, right? And it makes you depressed, and then it makes you isolated, and it makes you shy because you're not really presenting who you truly are as a person. And over time it wears on you. You got this burden and you can't even share it with anybody. And nobody would ever understand what I went through as a child and young adult growing up and trying to make sense of it all, because unless you're in my shoes, or if you're struggling and I'm in your shoes, we don't know what we all go through. We all have our challenges. Life is hard, but we try to do the best we can. And there is beauty in life too. There's wonderful things. I'm not a negative person. I just have things that happened in my life that affected me, and unfortunately it resulted in me being depressed, not knowing how to communicate properly with people about things, being sheltered, being isolated, not having normal relationships. And over time, that becomes evident. And you start to realize that you have difficulties in relating to people, especially when you're in school. You carry life as the way you are growing up is how you relate to other people. And if you're not comfortable with yourself, then how are you going to relate properly to other people? So I had a big problem with that. I couldn't relate to others because I knew there was something not right with me. And I tried to hide it. And I looked upon being different as a bad thing because I didn't accept it. I couldn't accept it because I thought it was wrong. And I just was struggling. And it's unfortunate that I didn't get diagnosed with depression at least. If I got diagnosed with that, maybe all of this would have come out sooner. But I have no regrets because I have a beautiful wife and a son who I adore, though he struggles, and that also contributes to my depression. And I'm not working, I'm out of work. It's a long story. Take me a long time to do the whole presentation of what it was like for me growing up, and doing what I was supposed to do, and then working. But I knew that I struggled, and I knew I had to do the best I could to try to fit in as best I could without really telling people what was going on within me. And that's a difficult thing to have to go through. And then when you add on top of that, seeing your parents sick, and my mom was suffering, and she had mental illness, and she was in and out of hospitals, and it was tough. It was really tough because my mom was a beautiful person. She was a wonderful person, a wonderful mother, a wonderful wife, and it's just unfortunate that she had to suffer the way she did. And a lot of it had to do with because my dad struggled in his life, and he worked hard, and his job was very physical and dangerous as an iron worker. So my mom would worry about him because of all the near-death experiences he had, and experiencing death in the business as well. So my mom was a nervous wreck every time he went to work because he made the money to pay the bills. And my mom was the one paying the bills, so naturally she worried. And she loved my father. Obviously, my mom and dad loved each other. And her worrying translated to my worrying. And I remember growing up as a little boy, always wondering if my dad was going to come home. Worrying and praying that he's going to be safe. And it was a very difficult thing to go through that. And then to see a mom break down and get sick, it was just very, very difficult and sad. it was sad because my mom was such a wonderful person and I loved her so much. And I used to talk to her, you know, I related to her, and I know deep down she knew that I was different, even though we never talked about it, but there were clues and she knew, she picked up on them, but we never talked about it. I wish that I was able to talk about it, but it was not something that I was able to do. So, people wonder why I am depressed as a person, why I suffer. You know, they think that because I had surgery, that everything should be great. And I'm happy I did surgery, of course. That's what I wanted all my life. So, I have no regrets about doing surgery. I'm very happy living as a woman and being feminine, because that's what I am. But I am also ostracized, basically. When I came out, my whole world turned upside down, and I was a CPA, I was a professional, and then everything just fell apart. And I was worried about paying the mortgage and paying the bills. You know, my wife wasn't making a lot of money. Matthew was a teenager, and I'm going through my own issues and dealing with my dad's death. He died in 2009. My mom died in 1990. She was 50. My dad died in 2009 by suicide. He was 73. My mom died from mental illness. And then my friend in 2011 died, and he was my best friend who helped me cope and get through my dad's unfortunate suicide. And then 2 years later, he dies. So the culmination of all of my struggles growing up, and then my dad's suicide, and then my best friend's death. I was 48 when my dad died, and I was 50 when my best friend died. He died at 40 years old, left behind his beautiful wife and little baby girl. And we were great friends. He was into music. He got me more into music. And I just was crushed. When I went to his wake, it was a wake-up call. Because I'm 50 years old, I'm miserable. I'm happy I have a wife and son, don't get me wrong, but I'm miserable because I'm not who I truly am as a person. And that's when I had to make a decision as to who really am I. And I had to do a lot of soul searching. And I had to do a lot of thinking, and I was isolated, and I was depressed. And I realized that the only way I could function and go forward was to transition from male to female, because that's how I always felt. But nobody knew it, so it was a big surprise to everybody, basically. And the employer didn't take to it, you know. And I had to leave and then take on another job with a doctor's office who supposedly was fine with me transitioning. The office manager was fine, supposedly. The owner wasn't, I could tell right away. And I read the writing on the wall after just being there a month, because they didn't set me up with a phone or anything. They didn't include me in their meetings, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They didn't get to be in the reindeer games. Well, I wasn't able to be in the business meetings. I didn't have a phone. I had to ask for a phone. And then what I knew right away was when they had their bulletin, they would always discuss the new hires and their backgrounds, and they never mentioned me at all. So I knew that my days were numbered there, and I knew that it was just like, it seemed to me like they were just taking advantage. And They didn't even give me a chance. I was only there for 6 or 7 months, and that was it. And that's when everything fell apart. Um, I lost the job. I was gonna lose the house if I didn't cash in all my retirement monies. So I have no retirement money. I'm dependent on Social Security disability and long-term disability. And I'm getting harassed, not harassed, but I'm overwhelmed. I just had surgery on 9/11, life-altering transgender surgery. And I'm just overwhelmed because the long-term disability insurance carrier is requesting all these medical records, and they don't have the the third party that they're working with is incompetent because they don't know how to get my medical records. So now it falls all on top of me while I'm trying to recover. And I blew up on the phone today. I just lost it because of all this miscommunication. They want me to get tax returns. I sent them 3 years, 16, 17, and 18. I sent them federal and state. Couldn't send 2015 because I don't have it. And the link, the server, after 3 years, the returns are no longer available. So they sent me a request form, transcript, a form for the tax transcripts. And they sent it incorrect. They had something wrong on it, the year. They had 16, 17, 15, 16. Then instead of 2017, they just put 207 and 2018, so that was wrong. So I said, this is wrong, you got to correct it. Then they sent another one to me, and it had the wrong zip code. My zip code is 11756, they put 11765. So I said, what am I to do? So I crossed it out, and I sent it to them, Prudential, and then Prudential sent to the IRS. And then I get this letter in the mail from the IRS, and it says it's been rejected because I crossed out the zip code. So I flipped out on the phone. I said, you can't even get that right. So now I'm waiting for the third time, and they're putting pressure on me while they keep messing up. And I just flipped out. And then I was on the phone yesterday. I was at the dentist's office getting a cap or crown, whatever you call it. And I spoke to the rep, and I said, what's going on now? What do you need? What do you have? What do you need? And they said they have my hospital records for such and such dates and the facilities that I was at. And they said they have NUMC, National University Medical Center. And I said, you must have a lot of paperwork. And she said, yeah, we have like 250 pages worth. So that's for 16, 17, and 18. I'm sorry, that's from 2016 to current. And then today in my email, I get this request, a medical authorization form from their third-party rep who doesn't seem to know what they're doing. And they asked me to fill out this request form for Nassau University Medical Center. But the woman I spoke to yesterday said that they received it. So I got so angry, and I called and I said, why am I getting this email requesting that I fill this form out for the third party to get my medical records from NUMC when you told me yesterday you received them? And I didn't even get to speak to the woman I spoke to yesterday. I had to speak to someone else and retell the whole damn story. So I got really angry and I flipped out and I said something I shouldn't have. And then before I know it, the cops are at my house, take me to the hospital. And it's like this always, always, always. The same thing over and over and over again. And it's because people are stressing me out to the point where I am frustrated. Nobody's giving me a chance to work again. I'm isolated, I'm depressed, I'm recovering from major surgery. I have a son who's on the autistic spectrum and he's struggling. And we're looking probably at group homes. And it's just too much for me to bear, you know? There comes a point when you just say enough is enough. And I'm getting close to that point, but I'm trying my best to do what I can to survive. But I think I need an attorney to help me deal with this prudential matter because they're really giving me a difficult time and I am legitimately disabled. I am not in the right frame of mind to work. And even if I was, I'm out of work 7 years now. And a lot of it has to do with being discriminated against, but a lot of it has to do with my mental state. I'm suffering from depression. I have bipolar disorder with mania and very deep depression. And I have had suicide attempts. I have bipolar disorder that is very bad. And I am transgender on top of that. And I have an autistic son. And I have an autistic son. And it's just a lot to deal with. And just trying to do the best I can. You know, there's only so much you can do. And I'm trying. I want to do the right things, you know. I have dreams. I want to help people. I want to help my son, obviously. So I want to do everything that I want to make sure he's going to be fine, you know. But if nobody gives you a chance, and I don't know how to make my own business. I never felt that I had to worry about having my own business, but I am not a business person where I can just create my own business. I tried to make music, I tried to write a book, I tried to do spoken word, and nothing comes of it, you know? I put money into it, not a lot, but I put money into it, and nothing really comes from it, you know? And I have a lot to share with people. I can talk and I can help people, but I'm not an inspiring person to the point where I've achieved. I can talk and tell them about my experiences in life. I can share all of that. But if I haven't proven myself in a way of saying I'm successful, then just talking about things that I've been through really doesn't matter because I haven't proven myself. And I have a son who's struggling, so why would someone want to listen to me when my life is not in order? So I'm just trying to do the best I can. You know, there comes a point when you just say, you know, you tried. But when you look at things and you say the struggle isn't worth it, I mean, it just makes you wonder, why would I want to be here if all I'm doing is struggling? But I have to be here because my son needs me. And why would I come this far in my transgender transition to just give up? You know, I didn't come this far to just give up. So all I can do is just try my best. And just try my best. And just try my best. That's all I can do, right? So I'll just try my best.